meeting is being recorded.
Right, and turn this. We'll leave that. Right. Okay, let's go. Just got a few people joining already. I'll just give everyone a second to come in.
Yeah. No, I mean, we all got used to this, didn't we? I was working full time in COVID, and we were doing Zooms and Teams, you know, once a week with the sales force to keep in touch, and it just becomes part of people's everyday life now, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's that much more convenient than traveling out to a little village or somewhere, isn't it? So it's makes a change, even if we do have technological issues sometimes.
I am a bit old-fashioned. I actually quite like to have a screen and wander about, and you know, but you know, it is what it is, and this, you know, it's great that we've got the opportunity, you know, to talk to more people about it. Superb.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Right. Well, on that note, we've got a few people in now already, so I'll just say to the people that have just joined now, welcome everybody, and our sincere apologies for the delayed start. We've not managed to escape the technical gremlins this evening, it would seem. We had a few issues with the mic at Steve's end, and but thankfully, pleased to report we've got that rectified now. So we're kind of ready to crack on. There's quite a few names I recognise that have already joined us, but just for the benefit of anybody that hasn't been to Virtual Fisheries Forum before, I'm Alex. I've been involved in organising these for the Trust for getting on for the last 5 years now, both in person, in the kind of village hall setting, and online, like this one tonight. So obviously we're recording the presentation portion of this meeting, which we'll send around to everyone afterwards. Q&As as well. We're going to do a little written version of that. If you'd like to ask a question of Steve or myself tonight, all you need to do is just hit the Q&A button. So if you're on a desktop or laptop, that's usually at the bottom of your screen. Mobile device, it's the top. And if you just hit that button at any time throughout the meeting, type in what you'd like to ask. That'll then come across to ourselves, and we can discuss for you later on. Really, only other thing to add is we'd have a very short survey for you to fill in at the end. We just ask you to do this just so that it, just to give you an opportunity to let us know what you thought about the meeting, what you do differently, and suggest some topics for future. So I think that covers most bits. We've actually got Brett from Australia who says good morning from Australia on tonight. So good morning, Brett.
Nice one, Brett. Nice one, Brett.
It's probably the furthest afield person we've ever had at a Virtual Fisheries Forum. So thank you ever so much for getting up this morning and coming along, Brett. But I think we've probably covered most bits there. So without further ado, I'll introduce our guest for this evening, Steve Tapp of Anglers National Line Recycling Scheme. Good evening, Steve. So Steve, whereabouts are you joining us from today? Then the South Coast?
On the Sussex coast, yeah, looking over a breezy sea.
Excellent. Well, yeah, it's nice being tucked up warm tonight. So Steve's basically going to run us through a little bit about Anglers National Line Recycling Scheme, a bit of the background and sort of the trajectory going forward. So I'll just I'll pull up your slides, Steve. I know we've got a bit of a video to play later on as well, which I think is the second to last one. So I'll get that ready for us. And when the time comes, I'll just go on and play that, and then we can go straight into the question and answer session. So I'll just pull it up now. I'll put myself on mute. And if you just want to prompt me for slides, Steve, we will go from there. Okay, whenever you're ready, Steve.
Yeah, no, that looks good. That looks clear for me. So good evening and welcome everybody to this evening's presentation, and many warm thanks to the Angling Trust for inviting us here tonight. So we're going to use the Chris Whitty. Next slide, please, Alex. Slight issue with my script there, but here we are. So this is the question, isn't it? Why should we be recycling? Landfill and incineration are not green options. Landfill poses obvious problems with discarded line, especially if it's not cut up. And it's widely accepted, and not so many people have known this, that 1 ton of incinerated plastic generates 2 tons of CO2, which is a bit of a mind boggler, really. Next slide, please, Alex. So there's a big number, 1 million kilometres. And a reasonable question would be, how do we know? So the first thing to say is that in calculating volumes and weights, we use a standard 1,000 metre spool of 15-pound line, which we know weighs in old money 4 ounces. We've actually conducted 2 surveys, one in 2018 with the Global Ghost Gear Initiative, and a second one with the Angling Trust in 2020. In all, we had 1,200 and 1,400 anglers respectively. So if we take over an average over the 2 surveys, we arrive at basically 1,000 metres per angler per year. And we have a figure in our head of 1 million anglers, which is low, because we know that, for example, in 2022-23, there were 903,000 rod licenses sold. So if you then add on you could add on possibly half as much again. So the figures I give you are probably on the light side. One of the reasons we think we got the higher average is because 49% were from carp anglers. Thank you, guys. 31% sea anglers. So again, if you look at that number of anglers, 903,000 licenses, and then 31% of that could be sea anglers. It's a lot of fishermen. So some key overall facts, 75% of anglers owned 5 or more reels, not all of which their partners knew about. 82% changed their line at least once a year, and 59% used 1,000 metres plus. Average that down again, and we arrive at circa 1 million kilometres, and which will weigh in at roughly 100 metric tonnes, which is commercially viable. 91% of the respondents at the time either binned or burnt their line, which is why we need to recycle. And one other thing to consider, you'll see the nice spools in the background there. If 1 million anglers buy just 2 spools of line per year, we can add at least 2 million plastic spools that need to be recycled as well. Next slide, please, Alex. So how it started, plastics in Denmark, fairly well established at recycling old commercial nets and turning them into plastic pellets for reuse. Next slide, please, Alex. Just adjust my script, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. So I'm pictured here with Harry Owen of the Global Ghost Gear Initiative, local independent sea anglers, whom I'm a founder member of, a group of like-minded anglers in Sussex. We got together really to address some local issues and also take part more in the overall angling forum. Lisa, fantastically, the members got behind the scheme and actually raised the funds to launch the Anglers National Line Recycling Scheme. So next slide, please. So the stars are born, we could say. Viv Shears and Paul Singleton joined with me in 2018, and Viv actually launched the concept at the Big One show in March. Viv is very much front of house and was recently named the 46th most influential person in angling 2023. Congratulations, Viv. Singy is our design and IT guru. He's behind a lot of the graphics and the website stuff that you see. And he is an angler of some repute. I will leave it up to him to decide how much that would be. Next slide, please, Alex. So this just sort of is the bullet points of what we're about. Essentially, it's 100% angler-led, run by volunteers, non-profit, community interest company. We're funded purely by donations, and if we can raise funds from other sources, which will just come up a little bit further in the presentation. The Angling Trust and the Environment Agency are supporters of the scheme, and we have had money from the licence fee to print flyers, etc. There's a picture of one on the right there. We do now have an updated flyer, and they're available free on our website. We just ask people to cover the cost of postage. Next slide, please, Alex. So we're not without reach, and we have now individuals signed up in Sweden, Belgium. You can read the list. We attended FTEX 2019, and they very kindly gave us time in their presentation, and at their AGM they highlighted the scheme as a positive step. The Ireland, both north and south, we've now got some anglers promoting it. We've had some come and go, great people, and we have also inspired schemes in Canada and Australia. And I know, Brett, you're listening. You're a top man, and thanks for joining us. One of the key things was when you looked at where plastics were in Denmark was the green or the carbon footprint of recycling. So a UK recycling partner was desperately needed. So we met Steve Carey, a name you may or may not be familiar with. He's DNA Bates is probably the one that anglers would recognise mostly. And he's also a director of My Group, which is the recycling company or head of. And we met Steve at the Northern Tackle Show, brief meeting. We asked him, told him what we were looking for. He said simply, I can do that, which was wonderful. So we were up and running. So next slide, please. So in essence, the concept is tackle shops. So we have 378 tackle shops signed up, 192 fisheries, and actually we've had 2 more fisheries sign up this week and 1 more new inquiry. When it comes to the shops, they simply buy a bin at Asda or wherever for a £5, and then we send them out a window stickers for their bin, and we pop them up on our website. We'll have a little look at that shortly. We work with the UK recycler My Refactory, which comes under the umbrella of My Works, and they can recycle all the materials we collect with the scheme. We still have our relationship, obviously, with plastics in Denmark, and for the European countries, the idea is that we funnel through plastics as and when required. Next slide, please, Alex. So this is just a brief look at our website. You can visit that any time. It helps you to know where you can recycle, essentially. It's a clever bit of kit. If you go on it on your mobile phone, it knows where you are. I hate it, the cloud, but it knows where you are. And as you can see, there's a simple step there. It will show you all the shops or locations that you can recycle line in your area. Equally, there's a postal address there. So if it's small amounts of line you want to return, you can pop them in the post to us, either to the PO box number or my address there. We also have an online shop. So we raise a little bit of money with merchandise and products, and obviously pop on there, have a look at it. We've got some stunning sunglasses made out of mono and fishing net, and the mono was collected by us in our scheme. Next slide, please. So this wasn't a new idea. It was something that we picked up on primarily from the States, and there were some line bins about, but probably 20 odd years ago. So in essence, we simply reinvented the wheel, and primarily we just put them out there to combat angling related litter. As anglers, we know that if people see rubbish and they've seen an angler there, they automatically assume that the angler left it there. So we started off with just 5 bins round about where I live, and it's grown exponentially. So we have over 40 bins now along the Sussex coast. And then interestingly, it took us in a slightly different direction, one that we didn't really anticipate. Next slide, please, Alex. So almost immediately, local beach cleaners and environment groups contacted us, and they loved what we were doing. They liked the idea of the pipe bins and said, can you do net? Can you do rope? Can you do this horrible polypropylene string? And any other amount of small bits and pieces. Fisherman's kisses, typically as they're known, the little crisscrosses of net mends. So we spoke to Steve Carey, we spoke to Refactory, they said yes. You'll notice in the bottom middle of the picture, there's those horrible plastics, fish boxes and old crab pots that also wash up. I'll put a question mark there, but we'll cover that later in the presentation. Next slide, please, Alex. So working with the local beach clean groups, you can see those numbers there are actually pretty impressive. But they're very worrying, because if you just consider this, guys and girls, that is just Sussex, okay? That's just the Sussex coast. Think about the coastline of the UK and well, I don't know what the numbers are. You don't know what the numbers are, but they're pretty frightening. One bright note in there, less than 2% of beach clean collections are angling related. So that's still too much, but actually, when you look at it, it's mainly commercial fishing that that generates the worst of it. On the pipe bin side, look at that, 750,000 meters of lost or littered fishing line retrieved from the coast. That's, again, a staggering amount, again, if you put in the UK coastline. Bottom right, you'll see a picture of Donna, that is, from the Selsey Beach Litter Ninjas, who we work with now, and that van there was funded with some Team C's money that we got for our 2023 project. And we have now just been successful with another bid for 2024. Next slide, please, Alex. So this is our personal best. All anglers have a personal best, don't we? Whether it's a roach, a gudgeon. A lot of people, their first fish was a gudgeon. So this is our personal best. 2.4 metric tons of mono 4-van loads. This was from a shop that was closing due to retirement. I guess the guard invested in one of those bulk purchase schemes, but it wasn't actually of the highest quality. A number of people have asked us why we simply didn't sell it on, but frankly, it was pretty brittle. And there were hundreds and hundreds of HD spools. So that's our PB, and all of that line is already at my refactory, and Steve is looking at what we might be able to do with something in that quantity. Next slide, please, Alex. So, big question. This is what most people are interested in. What's it recycled into? What becomes of it? So essentially, it's a plastic board. And we'll show you a little bit about the products and the process. If we just consider the cost of new plastic, again, not many people know this, nearly 2 kilos of crude oil to produce 1 kilo of plastic. Frightening, isn't it? Mechanically recycled plastic uses less energy per kilo to produce than new. So we now have some angling related products available and some other ideas for the future. If you could give me the next one, Alex. So there's a couple of rod stand variations there. The one in the centre, there's a few angling shops, tackle shops now that have those. Angler's Den down in Pevensey Bay being one of note. And then we have done a few of the wall racks there. Ladybower Fishery have got one of the rod stands and one of the wall stands, I think. Bottom left, you can see a recycling station. How fantastic is that? A recycling station made entirely out of recycled plastic. And top left, you'll see the sunglasses frames marketed through Steve Carey and DNA Bates. They are actually stamped up with our little logo. Waterhall, the company behind them, so there's quality. Italian polarized lenses, and at £65, they're excellent value for money. Why wouldn't I take an opportunity to plug that they're available on our website? Next slide, please. So here you can see the process, the product. Rope, nets, dirty plastics are ground down into what's called granulate, which is the top left. That is then spread out onto, best described as a big table, the bottom half of imagine a giant waffle maker. You apply heat and pressure at the appropriate time and a board is formed. So just to give you a picture on that, compared to ply, so this board is typically used for building site hoardings, for example, as is ply. Ply has one life and it's burnt. This board, compared to ply, has over 80% carbon recapture, which is exceedingly high. Next slide, please, Alex. So here we have our achievements to date. If my script has now come up, superb. So 119 million meters. You go, wow. Ooh, eh? Okay, just consider how much we sell in the UK every year. It's 10%. So we're doing all right, but we could be doing a lot better. I love the stat that Viv came up, which would be that it was a cast of 32.7 million 12-foot wraps. That must resonate with a few of you carp guys out there. Alongside that, 1 million meters of fly line and braid, and over 1,000 spools and single-use plastic items. We have, in the past, had funding from the Global Ghost Gear Initiative. Last year, Team Seas and Global Ghost Gear have come through again this year. And so we're fully funded for the year coming up. What was poignant, but was a source of great pride to us that we received the John Wilson Award, the inaugural John Wilson Award for outstanding contribution to angling. And we've worked with projects with the Angling Trust, Anglers Against Litter. So that's a slide that we're really proud of. Next slide, please, Alex. So this is a quick look at my group, my refactory. There isn't a box for these guys, okay? There isn't an envelope. They see something and say, what can I make with it? So their recent display stand, you can see it bottom left, over 300,000 single items recovered fishing materials. Impressive. Little key ring in the middle there, the scallop shell. And then in the bottom right, you can see some water carriers there. And they are made from recycled fly line. So I've got a little machine, I'm not quite sure what it's called, but it makes them up. And we actually show those at the show. And in the middle there, you can see just a selection of the materials that they use. So next slide, please, Alex. So saints and sinners. The wonderful picture of our Gardner rep in the middle there. So Gardner reps, Gardner have been brilliant. They fund us with a small amount financially, but key is their reps collect from all the shops that they call on. The majority of the trade, it's sad to say, do nothing. We've had a few conversations. We've even had a few nudges and winks, but nothing so far. We're currently campaigning with the Angling Trade Association for a 2p per spool contribution. Now, what we're looking for there is a way to fund a free return scheme. So one of the objections, one of the problems that tackle shops have, margins are tight, is even though it's a small amount of money if you use a courier, there's still a cost involved. 2p per spool, you know the number, we were there at the beginning, would give us sufficient funds to set up a free return scheme, not necessarily just for shops, but actually also for fisheries and even angling clubs. Just think about that, the potential for the amount of line that we could get back. Just flipping back to the surveys that we did, 67% of anglers supported a small price increase to cover the recycling of their old line and plastic products. Incidentally, Gardner have delivered us another 750,000 meters this week alone. It's in Viv's port, and I'll be collecting that later in the week. Johnson Ross and Angling Direct also send them to us direct, as do many, many small independent shops. Sometimes it's a couple of thousand meters. Typically from Johnson Ross or Angling Direct, we could be looking at 40 or 50,000 meters per drop. Next slide, please, Alex. So how do we go about promoting the scheme? Shows and social media. There's a couple of stars here, obviously not Viv and Jamie. Paul Whitehouse and Roman, in fact, are the stars there. Roman is actually Viv's grandson, and he is show staff with his mum Tashi on a number of occasions. So we attend the big trade shows, big country shows like Chatsworth and Ragley, and social media is very important to us, as is our very strong collaborative relationship with the Angling Trust. So if you see some shows advertised, come and see us. You can take old line to the shows, and you can also peruse the merchandise available to help us raise a few more quid. Next slide, please, Alex. So we've done, over the last 3 years, we've worked with the Angling Trust a lot. Dr. Emily, lovely lady. Done a few videos with her, a good one with Keith Arthur as well, which if you look back, you can probably find. Dr. Emily's been fantastic in the background. She's been putting us forward for projects and helping us to place pipe bins. So with the Angling Trust, we've supplied and placed over 75 bins around the UK. Brilliant quality bids by Jimmy, and the Angling Trust support has seen significant growth in the scheme, because they're talking direct to anglers, people that join the Angling Trust, they're interested, and they're more than happy to get involved. So the next slide, please, Alex. This is a question that we're often asked at the shows, via email, via message. So first of all, the obvious one really, encourage local tackle shops, fisheries, clubs, etc. to sign up to the scheme. If they haven't, there might be a question or two, one of which is, what's in it for me? And the simple answer is customers. So I'll pick out the Angler's Den down in Pevensey Bay again. They have anglers drive by several other tackle shops to come to them because they have a line recycling bin. I often pick up from them 20,000 plus metres, and certainly in the region of 200 or 300 spools. So if you're talking to your local tackle shop, not involved, all we ask is that they purchase a suitable bin. Now that could even be a bin liner in a cardboard box. I mean, it could be that simple. They can register on our website. We'll then send out sticker packs, which is a window decal, which shows people they can recycle their line there. All of you tonight, if you haven't, please always recycle your old line, and tell your friends to do the same. Again, talking to people at the shows, they say, what can we do? Okay, most anglers are part of a Facebook group. They've got Facebook, social media attached to their club, syndicate, whatever. Just say, have you seen? Saw a great idea today. Went on the virtual webinar with the Angling Trust last night. Did you know you could recycle your old? And then share it on their social media. Clubs, syndicates, why not get your members involved? And then when we come back to the major brands, lobby them, get in touch with them, say, why on earth aren't you supporting the Anglers National Line Recycling Scheme? It's a no-brainer, frankly. So that's what you can do to help. Oh, plus there is a donate button on our website, obviously, which you could go route one. Next slide, please, Alex. So here we have a look at the future. So I think you've probably got a flavour of what we're really looking for. More line and spools. So what we need is more tackle shops online. I actually don't know how many tackle shops there are in the UK. 378 doesn't sound enough. But if you said there were 1,000, I'd probably say that's too many. But what I think I do know is that we're not actually reaching every tackle shop in the UK. New products, I hinted at that with all that amount of mono that we sent back from that one shop that closed. Steve Carey's having a look to see if he can come up with a product for us from the granulate there. Single-use plastics, they can now go into the recycling bins in the shops, and we'll take those on as well. I will mention that we've got a meeting actually with Dr. Emily next week online to discuss some joint projects with the Angling Trust for 2024. Thank you very much, the Angling Trust. And then you'll see there all aquatic plastic recycling. So if we go on to the next slide, Alex. So having gone from recycling fishing line, pipe bins to combat angling litter, into environmental groups and beach fiends saying, can you do net and rope? The next question, quite obviously, was, can you do the plastic? Steve and my refactory are more than capable of dealing with it all. They know what we're about. So we launched a new charity last year, and we saw Tony Booker and Paul Sansom-Timms, anglers again, from the Colne Valley area as trustees with Viv, myself and Paul. And REAP will recover and recycle all aquatic plastic litter. So that's a canal, it's a lake, it's a reservoir, it's the seashore, it's the riverbank. And so it's a local hub concept. So It'll take a bit of pressure off the Anglers National Line Recycling Scheme because we're obviously handling all the beach clean as well, and we really need to focus our attention a little bit more towards angling. So REAP gives us much bigger capacity, and it's a local hub concept, so that we'd like to raise money to fund a local hub, which is as simple as a storage container, key code access, pallets, ton bags, and support with logistics to get it returned to the recycler. If you go to the next slide, please, Alex. Okay, so this is our new Watford hub. So that's in the Colne Valley area. Again, anglers, it's all about anglers. So Chromachem host our container. Their sales director and a couple of their guys are anglers. Not only have they given us access to a piece of land beside their unit for our container, they also have given us the site inside and the power to run a compactor. So you can see bottom right, typically what comes out of rivers and onto the beaches, and that compactor reduces plastic volume by 50%. What it also means is that we can now handle all types of aquatic plastic, so even those fish boxes, crab pots, etc. So that's the second container alongside our existing Sussex site, and we've got a third site opening in Godalming with the support of Godalming AS. Again, anglers, you get the theme, and that will be opening shortly. So if we just go to the next slide, Alex. On here, there's a link to a video which Alex is going to play. I have got one slide after this, Alex, which is my goodbye. So if you could just run the video for me and then flip back, thank you. Lovely, thank you, Alex. Couple of stars in there.
Virgin Media's winter sale savings. Pick up great deals in our lightning fast.
Hello.
Do apologise.
Okay. What was that? An unsolicited dad, was it? Am I back with you there, Alex?
Yeah, all back. Sorry about that, everyone. That was an ad that started playing in the background.
Okay. So listen, everybody, thank you for your time and interest tonight. If you didn't, or you haven't, I trust we've convinced you to get involved. I know there's a little Q&A to follow. So thank you again for your time, and massive thanks again to the Angling Trust and Alex for inviting us here tonight. I hope you found it informative. It was certainly fun to do. So thank you very much.
Oh no, well, thank you ever so much, Steve. I thought, yeah, it's absolutely brilliant to see. And yeah, sorry about the. I'm not sure how well the video came out for everyone, but what we'll do is we'll include a link to that just in the Q&A document when it goes around, so everyone will be able to watch it properly there and then. But I thought that was brilliant, Steve. I mean, obviously, I've been quite fortunate of kind of being abreast of the scheme and seeing how it's evolved over these last sort of, 5 or 6 years, and yeah, it's always impresses me in terms of some of the figures that you can come out with, and I was particularly impressed with the what was it, 32 million wraps of line so far.
2.7 million.
32.7. I mean, there's quite a few carp anglers I know, Steve, and some of them would probably be claiming they won't be casting far off that, to be honest. And I think when you consider
No,
that's how much line you've got.
I can't claim to be. It was Viv was the one that came up with that one. Bless him.
Well, no, I think it's a great stat, and yeah, you know, one that yeah, definitely provokes plenty of thought, and I can see we've actually got plenty of questions in already. So what I'll do, Steve, or in fact, just before I do that, something which I should have mentioned earlier on, we do actually have a bit of an interactive poll for everybody on tonight, and I think just while a few more people are sending in questions now, it's probably as good a time as any to try and pull that up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flash this poll up on your screen, which is basically about your sort of awareness of the line recycling scheme. And if everyone can just try and fill that in, I'll just send it up now. So you should see that come up on your screens. It's literally only 3 questions. And once you've completed that, it'll disappear. But for anybody that else is typing questions, get your questions in and fill that. I can see some answers coming in, which is fantastic. Brilliant. Right, we'll just minimize that and then start looking at some of these questions now. Right, so very first comment in tonight from actually our chairman of the Angling Trust, Steve, Eric Prescott. Evening, Eric. Eric says it's a great initiative. Can everyone on the call go and check and ask if their local shop or fisheries signed up? I think, yeah, absolutely, we should all be doing so. You know, continuing to bang that drum as much as possible. So I think, yeah, great comment there, Eric. Thank you. Evening, Ryan. Brett says, big congratulations, well done. Thank you, Brett. So David Atkinson says, where can the public buy the recycled plastic sheets from?
From my refactory, there's what we can do, Alex, is we can ping you a link to my refactory. But if they Google my refactory shop or myrefactory.com, it will take you and show you all the products that they make.
Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, we will circulate that to you, David. Right, next one from Mike Fisher. Evening, Mike. So Mike says, thank you. Are the slides available to circulate on our club website? I'll certainly check our local tackle shops for participating members. So short answer, Mike, is yes. So what I'll do, obviously, I'll send a recording round of that talk that Steve just given there, along with the Q&A materials as a reference. But I think as much as anything on the club website, it's probably worth just sticking a link to the NLRS website on there somewhere, just so that people can flick through. I mean, I think it's a really great website you've got as well, Steve. I think it's very easy to navigate your way around, and you know, shows exactly what the scheme's about. But we can certainly send you the slides, Mike, and some other information from the guys as well.
Yeah, big shout out to Steve Fantuzzi, who runs our website or created the website. Another angler, strangely.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Well, yeah, thank you, Mike. We will be in touch. So Ryan Charlton, evening, Ryan. Ryan says, how can clubs be involved with recycling line? Nice, simple one. I guess there's probably lots of different ways you can get involved, Steve, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, so most clubs will have a committee, and upon that they may have bailiffs or wardens that lakes. Some lakes have their own litter bins. So if you look at linear fisheries, for example, they actually have recycling bins on their fishery. So the key is one volunteer who will collect and take responsibility for getting it back to us. At the moment, as I say, we can't actually fund that, but I'd sent 9 kilos of line off to a guy today who wants to try something with them, which I won't say anything about because he's asked me not to. But I sent 9 kilos off to a guy today for £6. So it's not actually a lot of money. Double bag it in a bin line. So we will take what we call dirty mono. Again, this may be interest to fisheries. So snags in trees, reed beds, and I know one of our local clubs, Seaford Angling Club, which I'm a member of, they go out in the punt and they retrieve all the lost gear. These are the people that don't use wraps, obviously, and hit the tree and not the mark. So we can take that as well. You can send it in leads, swivels, hooks, the lot, and that goes up to my refactory labelled as dirty mono. So they know how to handle it, but they can still extract all the mono and recycle it. And clearly any metal goes to be recycled as well.
Absolutely fantastic, Steve. And with, I'm not sure if we touched on this earlier, but the actual bins that have been cropping up everywhere, I mean, they're quite, you know, I think they're a really nice design. I know actually that some other clubs have sort of tried to copy the design that they've seen from some of the, you know, kind of official ones that have had the stickers on. If someone wanted to try and set up one of those bins on their fishery, then is it just a case of trying to get some materials together, building their own, and getting a sticker off yourselves? Or is there?
Yeah, so you can purchase the pipe bins through our website, which are already made up,
right?
Which we do. Viv and I have a weekend and we cut 100 lengths of and stick them all together. But if you source, essentially we use 4-inch drain pipe, an elbow at the top, a screw fitting at the bottom. We have, as long as you have a 60 centimetre pipe length, the stickers we send out will fit that. And we're more than happy to send, if the fishery registers and said, we're putting up our own pipe in, Steve and Viv, can we have 4 stickers? We'll bang them out free of charge. We also have a nice little sticker on the top which says no dog waste, because that is a small issue here and there. But yeah, no, we're more than happy. They can communicate with us, message us on the website, and we'll send out stickers free of charge.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Steve. So I hope that answers your question, Ryan. I can just see actually Brett's come back and said down under we collect on average 125 metres of line at over 10,000 cleanups per year. Do we get much contaminated waste in pipe bins? I think that's something you just alluded to there, Steve, in terms of people putting dog mess and other items in. It can be a bit of an issue sometimes. So I guess that's where the importance of signage comes up and making sure it's labelled and trying to deter people as much as physically possible then.
The other tip I would say is if you pop the pipe bins, roughly the elbow wants to be 150 off the floor. 2 reasons. 1, it stops the kids putting their hands in it. And 2, the sticker that says no dog waste is then immediately at people's eye line. So as they go to put their bag in, I mean, I've had 4 this year from, what do I cover? About 11 pipe bins. So it's not a major issue. We've had interesting items in there, one of which would have graced an Ann Summers catalogue, but we won't go into that one.
So that didn't make it to recycling then?
Yes, it did actually. Yes, because it was fully recyclable. Yes, yes.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, well, it's you know, it's still a very interesting point, isn't it? And I mean, it actually was something that came up at a face-to-face fisheries forum probably 3 or 4 years now. I think probably before COVID, and it was an EA fisheries officer who'd been working in Florida, I think, and had been putting up similar fishing line bins, probably not to be recycled, but he said that they managed to create some kind of a funnel, you know, sort of like one-way system. Which sort of prevented getting them in. So I guess there's yeah, a few ways you can do it, but it is important that people have that consideration, isn't it? That, you know, people yeah, are going to be tempted, and we want to try and stop them putting things like that in as much as possible. So it's
yeah. The bottom line is, Alex, you can't cure stupid, and so you know, whatever you do, somewhere someone will not get it right, and that's just one of the little hazards, not unamusing at times, that you come up with. But just make sure you've got protective gloves on if you're entering a bin, straight into a rubble sack. I would recommend rubble sacks because they're obviously stronger, and then if it's going to come to us, tie it off, double bag it so there are no nasty odours, particularly when sea stuff's involved. Half a dead lobster came in one bag once, which was it was high. That would be one way to put it. But double bag, boxed and sent by courier, and then we'll deal with it at this end and get it sorted and off to the recycler.
Absolutely. No, that sounds brilliant. Thank you, Steve. Right, David's just come back and said thank you, David. I can see Tony's actually on the call this evening as well. Evening, Tony. And Tony has just put a link in, which I think was the one we referenced to David before. So thank you for that, Tony. I'm just going to publish that so everybody can see it. I think, yeah, you know, it's quite
What's
an
the link to the website, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. It's just down there now. So yeah, everyone can see that, and of course we'll include that when we put the Q&A document round with the recording later on as well. So yeah, and it's you know, I thought it was very very positive seeing what's potentially happening in future as you know, covering all kind of aquatic plastics, because I think it's maybe one of the things I've got a sense of sometimes is that, you know, maybe fishing items and fishing line. I mean, obviously fishing line's a big hazard to wildlife, isn't it? But sometimes fishing stuff as a whole can seem so insignificant to the kind of wider problems that we're seeing on a lot of waterways. But I guess, you know, keeping our house in order first is really important, and now we're able to, you know, branch out into those next steps.
Absolutely. Tony was out at the weekend doing a river pick, and 3 ton bags of plastic.
Wow.
From the weekend in the Colne Valley area. That just gives you an idea. But equally, we also have a flavour now of the brand poll. In other words, what we're seeing. So I'll throw a couple of names around: Tesco, Coca-Cola, whatever. And the brand poll, when we can see a significant amount of items from one particular area, that gives us somewhere to go. That gives us so data we're very strong on. That's what gets us the funding from Team Seas and the GGI. And so when we look at the commercial fishing litter, some of the pots that we get are actually tagged by the local IFCA. So we can actually identify the source of that.
Right.
And so in terms of prevention and mitigation, if we can identify a source, whether it's on a lake or a river, I mean, it could be a nearby factory, an outfall or whatever. If you can identify the source, you can actually then prevent it getting in the first place, and that stops us having to recycle it in the second place. So there's a lot of value in data, and when it comes to funding, that's what people want to see. They want to see what's happening, what you're doing with it, and how much of it. So so well done, Tony, at the weekend. That was a good one, and I've got half a bandful from the 2 beach cleans I did at the weekend as well.
No rest for the wicked, certainly, Steve. And speaking of data, I'm just going to have a check-in on our poll as well, which I think if anybody's not filled it in, please do, so I can actually see if some of the people on the call, we're probably on with 64%, 36% to people that have heard of the scheme. So there's quite a few people who haven't heard of it tonight. We're on 50-50. Exactly 50-50, surprisingly, for people who have previously recycled their waistline. And will you recycle your waistline with Anglers National Line Recycling Scheme in future? You'll be very pleased to know, Steve, it's 100%. So there you go, which I think is an excellent example of data. So thank you.
Yep.
So thank you to everyone for filling that one in. So I can see a few more questions in now. So another really good one from Brett, which is, how do you deal with braid line separation from mono?
Okay, so this is where it comes down to hand sorting. In terms of in the shops, we actually ask that braid or mono is kept separate. So braid is very much the smaller amount. Fly line's a lot more obvious. And so what we say to people is, if you're putting braid into a tackle shop bin, just put it in a brown paper bag with B on. It's as simple as that. It could be a plastic bag, because if you send me a plastic bag, guess what? That gets recycled as well. So if you just put braid separately, when it comes to the pipe bins, obviously I get braid in the pipe bins because I do. But again, going back to data, every pipe bin collection is weighed and sorted. So we know, for example, 2 years ago, we retrieved over 1,400 hooks from the local environment, that's the Sussex coast, 200 of which were baited, and another 300 were bare. The rest came in terms of feathers and that sort of thing. So, Brett, what I would say to you is, if it's in a pipe bin, it's down to whoever the local volunteer is just to sort it and keep it to one side. We send braid and mono in a separate bag labelled up to the recycler, so that will actually end up in the middle of a board. because you can pelletize mono, but you can't do so much with braid. The more that we add into a product, the harder it is to recycle. So what the beauty of mono is, it's pure nylon. You know, I mean, it's you know, think about 100 metric tons of mono. What kind of building would that fill? If we had half of that coming in, that's actually a commercial proposition for someone to pelletize that amount of nylon. So very simply, it's Anglers Cooperation. Please put braid separate in a bag, put a B on it, and I will know. I mean, pretty much anything that goes into a tackle shop bin, either myself or Viv will handle it. So there is a very strong hands-on element to making it work.
Absolutely, and just kind of thinking as well. I mean, this might sound like a silly question. Is there sort of a protocol for fluorocarbon as well, or does that just get lumped in with mono?
No, fluoro really does go in with the mono. It's in an ideal world we probably would separate it, but again, when you talk about the percentages, so when you look at that board that's made up, that is graded from the type of plastics that they get, and it will be 35% of this type of plastic, 40%, and so on. It's actually quite a scientific process. We've been to the plant; it's a fantastic place to go. But when you look at fluoro, in terms of percentage, it's quite low. So when it comes to the recycling side of it, generally speaking, it's okay.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Steve. Right, a few more questions. Ryan says, thanks, Alex and Steve, for answering my question. Great help. Thank you, Ryan. Really good one from Viv, actually. Evening, Viv. So Viv says the general public's response to these bins has been very positive, puts angling in a very good light. Indeed, we even had a lady that lost her dog due to a discarded hook on a beach. The result was she sponsored the purchase of a bin for the local beach, which I think is absolutely fantastic to hear. And it's, you know, such a, I think, you know, especially in, you know, I think we live in times where there's, you know, maybe cancel culture is the wrong thing floating around, but there's a lot of that, you know, maybe sort of anti-angling attitudes and things like that. And I think, you know, keeping our own house in order like this is really, really important for our image, the sort of wider public, isn't it?
Yeah, a lovely dog called Dolly, and we actually paid for and printed up a sticker with the picture of the dog on it, and that is on a pipe bin at Pevensey Bay. And I recently emptied the pipe bins, and here's an interesting thing actually. That the bin with the picture of the dog on had 3 poo bags in it. But I actually contacted the Pevensey Bay Dog Walkers group, who the lady that owned the dog was a member of, and I put a post up on there to say that there is actually a bin for poo bags. Literally, it is 20 metres down the steps from where the pipe bin is. Yeah, I got a very favourable response from the dog walkers in Pevensey and they're just saying we wish we had a few more. So, yeah, no, that I think there's a lady that really should have nothing to do with anglers, should she? She lost her dog to. So, as I say at the shows, there are anglers and idiots who go fishing, and they are the problem. Kalin, a guy that came down from plastics to join us at FTEX in 2019, he said plastic isn't the problem, it's people. And this is very often where we come back to. But, you know, we are touching people that have really, I mean, we had pipe bins on RSPCA areas in bird sanctuaries, and you think, what on earth? You know, they'd be the furthest away from anglers, but they're looking at what we're doing. And Viv's absolutely right. The perception of the general public towards anglers is definitely so positive when they see me emptying a bin or whatever. So yeah, no, I mean, it's great for angling all round, and I think, you know, it's an angler-led organisation doing a great thing to promote, you know, a much better side of our passion, frankly.
No, couldn't agree more. And yeah, no, great example there to draw attention to. So another question, actually the last one we've got in so far, so if anybody does have anything more they'd like to add, please do stick it in the chat, is from Brett, which is, are soft plastic laws an item you get a volume of? we're seeing very little, despite huge volume of sales. That is a very interesting one, because obviously, you know, they get damaged, wear out through fish attacking them, basically, don't they? So there's probably a lot of old shads with tails missing and things like that. I mean, are these something that we can recycle as well?
Absolutely, yeah, no, they are absolutely. So we do. So what we have along the Sussex coast is not many people know that you can catch squid off of the beach. So we get a lot of
very
squid jigs. Yeah, no. So actually, Lisa hosted the 2022, I think it was, Squid Angling Championships of the World on Brighton Marina. Wow. So yes, we do. We've got a lot of lure anglers along the Sussex coast. So yes, we do get an amount of shads and that sort of thing in the bins. And yes, I mean, they are essentially plastic, which means essentially they can be recycled. So they would go up to refactory in what I call general plastics, and they all become part of the middle of a board. So yes, they can.
Right, oh, absolutely fantastic. Well, yeah, there you go. So all part of it, and I mean, I suppose there's that many different things, isn't there, in fishing that can be recycled, and you know, starting with the lines, one thing, but the spools, as you said, as well. And I mean, so you know, in terms of people taking them to tackle shops, then people can, you know, within reason, sort of take anything in line, spools related.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we get a lot of part use spools. So every angler will relate to this. You tidy the shed or the fishing cubby hole every year, and you've got those old, you know, so you've filled up a reel and you've got 80 odd meters left on there. It's not enough to fill another reel. You probably won't tie a rig with it, but you know what? No, I can't get rid of that. And then what happens is each spring or whenever you tidy the shed and you move it from one shelf to another, and you're destined to move it back to another shelf, just take it into the tackle shop. I have stripping weekends, which on the face of it sounds a bit iffy, but I can strip 3 spools a minute when I'm on song, with a sharp knife and a pair of pliers. So every once in a while, when I've got the big box full, then I'll just spend a Saturday in the garage and spin off 80, 100,000 meters of line, 400 odd spools.
Just on that then, Steve, because I mean, I think it's, you know, a lot of people will be wondering then, because it's actually an issue that I encountered myself not that long ago, was trying to, you know, it was a very deep spool full of old rubbish backing that I had on there for ages, and I wanted to put some new stuff on. What in your opinion is the most effective way of stripping down a spool off, you know, off either a you know, plastic spool or a reel spool as well, you know, obviously without damaging the reel spool. But what do you think is the best way then? Just a really sharp sort of Stanley knife, something like that?
If you're stripping off your own reel, then you know, I would look no further than you know, we sell them on our in our shop. Is a line stripper that you put into your electric drill, and you can just spin off a fixed spool reel in a minute or so.
Right. Okay.
So you could also use a toilet roll tube around the end of your drill, and I hate them because I end up with something like, people do it, and bless them, they you know, they're recycling their line, but they're the most difficult to deal with. I end up with 200 or 300 meters of line on a scrunched up cardboard tube. The cardboard tube can't go in with the recycling, so it needs to be stripped off. And then other people will stick a bit of alley rod in an old 1,000-meter spool and spin it off on their drill onto that. So if you've got old spools, a good old pair of fashion pliers, snap off a quarter of it, and then just run a sharp Stanley knife through it, and it'll clean it off in no time at all. And when you're talking about 5 and 6 pound line strengths, anything up to 15 really, it's just as quick just to run a knife through it. But if you're taking it off your reel, then obviously you want a bit more care, and I would recommend using a despooler. The ones that we sell, they've got a little snap on top. You just clip the line on through that, spin it off, and then you undo the top, and it just comes off, and you can just funnel it into a bag or envelope. It's nice and clean, and come back to us for recycling.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Well, yeah, that's I've just seen as well, Viv's actually just put a link to it in the chat, so I'm just going to publish that, because I think I may well have to invest in one myself. And yeah, and Viv's actually just said as well, for clubs and fisheries, many take their line from their bins to their local tackle shops, which is then sent back to us. So yeah, using the sort of shops as the hub, which keeps it nice and straightforward for everybody. So thank you, Viv.
Yep.
Another great point from Tony as well. Tony says, worth mentioning that the types of plastics we can recycle is very broad-based. Boys to cigarette butts and everything in between, tennis balls, footballs, it all goes in. Beware those who tell you dirty plastics are going to recycling. They won't be. As I think was just touched on there, and yeah, it's I remember distinctly someone telling me about that. You know, dirty cardboard pizza boxes and things like that. It's there is a certain yeah point to bear in mind that it's got to be yeah free from cardboard tubes in the middle of the fishing line to be able to recycle it effectively. So thank you for that, Tony.
It's only quite right. I mean, you know, fortunately for us, Steve and my refactory, they specialise in using dirty plastic.
Yeah.
They actually make, so the board that they make is storm board, which is what you saw those products made from. But they actually do make one which is ocean board, and that is made entirely out of fishing net and recovered plastic waste from the sea, and equally will cover what we recover with reap and go through there. So there's very little that actually can't be recycled. Inflatables, I've been asked about those, you know, like that kids wear, you know, it might be a dinosaur and it's their first swim and it gets punctured on the beach. Yeah, that can go in as well. We recycle polystyrene. So a lot of the fishing buoys that we get are polystyrene, and we send those up separately, along with synthetic rubber items, shoe soles, flip-flops, and they go up to the recycler. So we do our best to make the recycler's job easy, because one of the biggest costs in recycling is sortation, because it has to be done manually. One of the reasons that a lot of councils can't recycle black microwave meal trays is simply that the magic eye can't see a black tray against the black conveyor belt. And if you think about it, that is ridiculous. Yeah. But actually, ain't that the truth?
Oh, it's eye-opening, isn't it? It's yeah, complicated all world, but you know, we're very privileged to have people like yourself and Viv, Steve, that are you know, really leading it from the front. So thank you for that. That's actually the last of the questions we've had in. So if anybody else does have anything they'd like to ask, just pop it in the chat now. But just something I did want to mention before we did actually finish, and it's something that you mentioned in your presentation, Steve. I'm actually just going to pull this specific slide up again, just to help illustrate, but everyone can see that there, so you should be able to see well, yeah, picture of you, Steve, and Dr. Emily Smith on there. So within Emily, yeah, oh no, she's absolutely fantastic, and within Emily's team, we've got some more fantastic people as well. So for anyone that is on the call who does have issues, we sort of litter more broadly rather than sort of discarded line and things. There's two other people within the same team as Emily, which is Drew Chadwick and Ian Doyle, who I'm sure you probably dealt with at some point before, Steve. So Drew is based in the south of England, covering basically anywhere up to Nottingham, and Ian is based in...
He's a great guy. He's the right character, is Drew. He came down and did a little bit of video on the coast with me. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, no, you know, fantastic guy, as is his counterpart for the north, Ian. And these guys actually specialise in helping clubs and fisheries out with tackling litter issues alongside invasive non-native species as well. And they're funded by the Environment Agency. You know, they're free at the point of access. Anybody can pick up the phone to them and they'll come and help you and go and visit your club and give you some really tip-top advice. And obviously, yeah, working closely with the line recycling scheme as well. Every step of the way. So just worth drawing attention to those guys. I will include their contact details in the Q&A document as well when we stick that round. But I just think it's something worth emphasising as well. You know, if you are experiencing these issues, we've got guys that can come and help you on that front. So we'll just stop sharing that one.
It's the top team, Malik, and we've got a Zoom with Emily next week, and we'll be talking angling line recycling scheme, and she's very excited to explore, particularly with your Just Take 5 and the Angling Trust Against Litter, working with us with REAP. Obviously now we've got much better access to help recycle a lot of the plastic that comes out of the rivers and the waterways. So looking forward to that meeting. Always a great one with Emily.
100%, 100%. Well, yeah, some great things to come potentially. Can see couple more bits from Viv as well. Viv says the recycler is now producing fencing posts, rails, and timber substitutes, which may be a great alternative to timber due to longevity. Currently more expensive than timber, but as demand increases, this will see prices come down. And much of the plastics we recycle are now being used to form the boards that are being used to create bird, stroke, bat, and owl boxes, which I think sounds absolutely wonderful. Yeah, so a brilliant example of how you can turn something pretty negative into something pretty positive in the end. So there we go. So I think that's it for the sort of questions for now. So we'll probably leave it there. Steve, unless you've got any sort of final closing thoughts.
Well, what I would say is, I think from your poll, it's clear that everyone we've spoken to tonight is on the page. But please talk to your local tackle shop, get them involved. We will be meeting with the ATA very shortly, and we'll be pushing the suppliers that are members to get on board and get us some money. And then we could, this is why we need people to lobby and to make the point, so that we could actually offer the clubs and fisheries that set up their own pipe bins, we could actually offer them an app, say, where they could download a label, they put the size of their box and the weight, and they get a label and they send it off to the recycler. That's our kind of, that's one of our aspirations, would be a good word. And then I think possibly if we were to look for what would be the ultimate, it would be to make the spools that we buy fishing line on from recycled fishing line and plastics. That would be something. The technology probably is the challenge, but we've always got to, keep moving on. Massive thanks to all the volunteers out there who support us, Viv, Paul, Tony, the other Paul, and then every angler that's put their hand up and done the right thing and got behind us. So thank you all, and keep recycling.
Absolutely. Well, thank you ever so much for that, Steve. Yeah, obviously, huge thanks to yourself for coming along tonight, and also thanks to Viv and Tony for joining in the background as well. Thoroughly appreciated. As I say, it's a real pleasure seeing how the scheme's developed over the last few years, and I look forward to seeing it developing into the future. So, thank you for coming along tonight and sharing a bit about that with us. So thank you. Obviously, thank you to everybody who's logged on as well. I do apologise, we have had a few technical difficulties tonight, but unfortunately nothing we can do there. But we'll be sure to send you a link to the video round, so you'll be able to watch that as well, along with that recording, etc. Obviously, if you do have any further questions, just drop myself or Mark an email, and we'll be able to pass them on to Steve or someone else. I'm just seeing as well, actually, Viv has just said, any questions, email us at anglersnlrs@gmail.com. I'll just publish that so people can see it if you want to take it down. And yeah, I think it's something we should all be supporting into future, and is one that we will look to see flourish. So on that note, we'll leave it there. So again, thanks everyone, and hope to all see you on the bank soon.
Okay, tight lines.
Bye for now.
Cheerio.
Ta-da.